Hello, everybody. It is Easter Monday, or not Easter Monday. It's the day after Easter Monday. I usually upload the podcast on Mondays, but yesterday I was like, I'll sleep in for once. So I slept until 7:30. It was a great day. Um, I'm a little red in the face today. My blood pressure must be spiking. Um, so yeah. In some other random news, I got the phone call yesterday that basically I had a vasectomy last year. I didn't do the lab work until last week, and then I got a phone call yesterday that my swimmers are no longer swimming. So, in the spirit of Easter Monday, my favorite type of egg is a Cadbury cream egg, and my second favorite type of egg is an unfertilized one. So, yay for me. Um, anyways, today we're thinking of Easter, and with Easter, usually, if you're not a heathen, um, you are you usually go to church and Um, usually, some people only go to church on Easter. Some people only go to church Christmas Eve. Um, y'all need to get serious. The Lord is coming. Look at this earth full of trash. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that right now because I don't want to alienate half of my audience. There's only two of you. I don't want to alienate one of you. Um, so yes, I'm gonna talk to you today about Um, kind of how church was growing up. I've talked about it before when I went on a super cringy youth retreat, and when I talked about going to Bible camp. So now we're just going to talk to you about going to old-fashioned church. Um, Now, my family was wildly inconsistent about which church they went to. It was like a Gen Z deciding on which gender to be. They could not pick. There's like 20 different churches that I went to. So the first church I went to is actually the same church that I'm going to now. Because for whatever reason, whenever my parents get into a hissy fit about something with one of the church members, they just kind of rage quit the church and went to a different one. Um, so the first one um, was the one I go to now. It was a Wesleyan church, and that church, great little church. However, back in the 80s, it was a little wild. I've got this picture at home of like them doing their nativity concert. And for the shepherds, they dressed up all the shepherds in their robes and their staffs and all that. But I have pictures at home of the kids in blackface. Now, I know most people have ruined blackface. It's not cool anymore. But back, it's just kind of wild seeing um, pictures of kids at a Sunday school concert wearing blackface because the little old ladies that wanted to make them look like shepherds didn't know any better. Anyways, no harm, no foul. Just a bunch of cool, dark-skinned white kids, apparently, I guess. So, don't do blackface, kids. It's not appropriate. Um, anyways, and I remember at one point, I remember my mom telling me that like there was some like mentally challenged woman that went to the church and like she got all excited when they brought me home from the hospital for the first time. She goes up to me all excited and she looks at me like, "Oh, he's got two nose holes." So yeah, that's usually you have to be on Epstein's Island to be excited about holes on a kid. So yeah. Anyways, that was how that worked. Now we kind of bounced around. We went from a Wesleyan church to a Pentecostal church. And if you don't know the difference between the two, Wesleyan church, the Wesleyans, they know how to sit down and watch a sermon. Pentecostals, they don't know how to sit down and be quiet. They're they're hooting and hollering, they're jumping all around, they're doing all that kind of. We used to call them holy rollers because they would roll up and down the aisle. They're all nice people, and their beliefs are 99% similar, except they like to party down like it's the rapture. So yeah, I was dedicated at a Pentecostal church. I think my uncle was the minister there, and I guess my uncle's pretty deep into being a minister. He's in it. He's into it so much that he has the title of doctor. So I guess if you can either do two things to become a minister, you can be ordained in 5 minutes on the internet, or you can spend 100 grand on going to a divinity school long enough to get your doctorate in ministry. So I guess there's that. Now, it's pretty uneventful. We went from there and then went to Wesleyan Church, Pentecostal Church, and then we went to the Baptist Church for like the next 20 years. And my parents still go to a Baptist church. Um, if you want to know what a Baptist church is, it's just all like all the other churches with just a bit more shaman in it. Um, now, um, when we when we went to the Baptist church, we went to an independent Baptist church, which basically means you don't have some head honcho telling you that your pastor has gone insane with power, and you can't do that kind of stuff. Independent just means pastor can do whatever he want when he wants, and tough luck if you don't like it. If you don't like the pastor, go start your own church. Um, so yeah, in that church we didn't even have a church building. We like traveled around to different houses. Now, this was probably my favorite church growing up because it had all the kids that I was friends with. I remember one time we had a sleepover at my camp, and there was like 20 kids there. So like all the kids in Sunday school got to invite one friend, and then we all hung out at my camp. And some guy brought a tube TV, and he brought his Nintendo 64 with Turok 2, and he brought a VCR with some South Park tapes. It was wild. It was amazing. It's good stuff. So yeah, nothing says a youth group retreat like South Park, I guess. Um, so yeah, we would rotate. I think it's kind of similar to what Jehovah's Witnesses do when they're not at their meeting house trying to decide of which congregation member that shouldn't be allowed to talk to their kids again. Um, we kind of bounced around from building the bill. Every once in a while, we would have enough money to actually rent out a hall, but in this particular case, we would just go from house to house. We had it at our house a couple times, I think. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like, I remember going to my buddy Cameron's house, and we would have church in the basement, and like his TV was in there, and he had his Nintendo hooked up. Like, oh man, we have a Nintendo at church. This is amazing. But no, we couldn't play it, and in fact, my mom never let us play Nintendo games, any video games at all on Sundays. So never get to do that. Now, at one point, my brother, the dirtbag that he is, he started dating the pastor's daughter at this church. My brother was like 18 and the daughter was like 17. Um, she they dated for like a year, maybe longer, and then they ended up breaking up, and like the parents were a little bit kind of I don't know. It didn't. The interaction between everybody went kind of bad towards the end, so it got kind of awkward. So we ended up switching churches. Um, so basically, how it happened, we went to a Baptist church. The church split because of some stupid argument, I'm sure. We went with the church that didn't have a building. We stayed with them for a bit, and then when those people got tired of us, we went back to the original church. And this church was the hardcore um, Baptists. Like, if you don't have the right translation of a Bible in your house, be gone. Um, and it was absolutely kind of nuts. Before I go that, I want to talk about going to Sunday school. Sunday school was a pain in my wiener because we actually had homework for Sunday school, and it was the stupidest. Like it was basically like it was like a list of questions and ask you to look up the Bible verse to kind of give the correct answers. So that was how that occurred. Um, Maybe like in the beginning, Jesus said what? He said, "Look here for the answer." Um, that was it. That was that. We had a sweet, nice little old lady as my Sunday school teacher. She actually, remember one time she made us communion wafers to kind of show us what the slaves ate when they were wandering the deserts. Like this is manna. Now manna isn't just kind of I know you're if you played video games, mana is all the stuff you use to use for magic, but mana is technically food from heaven that falls down. She's like give little honey flavored wafers. So there are communion wafers. But anyway, that's what she gave us. Now that was a nice little sweet church lady. Now we went back to the other church, and this is where things get kind of heated with everything. We went from like nice little Southern Baptist church style to basically borderline Westboro Baptist church. Not quite, but like the contrast was that much. Um, Now I'm going to talk about Tyrone again. Tyrone was mentioned in uh, the youth retreat or youth group episode, I think. He was the kind of kid that would make fun of you if you didn't know your Bible verse, but like he was so stupid that he didn't even know how to do math or whatever when he was a kid. So like he was pretentious, but like just pretentious about Sunday school and and about like other weird things. Like he was like a farm boy, and if you didn't know what a steer was, you're a queer. Like that kind of attitude. And I remember he would like make fun of his sister for not knowing her Bible verse. It was just the stupidest thing. So yeah, and that church is where it stemmed off, and we went to um, the youth retreat. Um, the first time we went there, it was pretty amazing because we went there on Easter Sunday, and we had a big old breakfast. That is like top five things about church. Number one, potluck. Oh, excuse me. That was actually the best part about going to church was enjoying that potluck. The second best thing was when you're a teenager and you see all the honeys in the dresses. The third best thing is well, trying to like draw Ninja Turtles or comics in the back pew on your little notepad. I still remember that I would, when I got bored at church, I would find a piece of paper and I would fill in all the O's. Like, just fill it in. Like doing Trump hands here. You fill it in. And unfortunately, I think I did that to my baptism certificate. Um, Now, if you're confused, like, oh, why did you get baptized when you were a teenager? Like, well, um, because when you're not Catholic, um, they don't condemn little babies to hell for not being baptized, I guess. So that's that's one leg up we have on Catholics. So yeah, um, that was that. And I'm like, and I didn't get baptized and like I didn't go up to the front and get dunked in a tank, which is what a lot of people do. And I didn't get the water anointed on my head. I was actually baptized in a river like they did down south, and it was actually pretty cool. I really liked being baptized that way. It was me, some like 70-year-old dude, and some ginger kid who's kind of a pervert now. But anyways, that's uh that's how we did it back then. No, there were a few times during church that we would go on these youth retreats. Now, the one youth retreat I did was a March break youth retreat. I'm still traumatized over that. But if my kid ever gets lippy at me when he's a teenager, I'm sending him there. Um, the other youth retreats that I went to, they were actually almost kind of fun. Um, we went to a university campus and we stayed there. So it was at least kind of fun. We actually I remember one time the Tyrone was always like, oh, he pretended to be the leader of the group or for some stupid reason, like he'd get after you for not having your Bibles out or something stupid like that. So I'm like, okay. And I remember at the church retreat once he told me I had to be serious. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go to the part of the youth retreat that has the GameCube and Super Smash Brothers set up, and that's what I did on that youth retreat. Youth retreat. I played Smash Brothers. Um, then after that church, they kind of split up again because I think one family had a I don't know what it was. I think they had a gay family member, and like it wasn't the fact that they were gay. I think it was the fact that they were living together as a couple without being married, and they were like deacons in the church. And he was like, "No, no, can't do that." So that family split apart and went their separate ways. Yeah, the one way you always know if it's a Baptist church is if you go by a church and they have a white cube van. That means all the kids are homeschooled, and that's it's like one way to know that it's a Baptist church if they have at least one cube van full of kids. I don't know what it is. I think it's just taking the be fruitful and multiply very literally. But yeah, that's what that is. Um, and yeah, now and then after that, went to another Baptist church. But this Baptist church kind of had it's like a more mainstream Baptist church. They had comfy pews. They didn't scold kids for not memorizing their Bible verses. It was actually a really nice place to go. But it was almost a little too friendly because like they let the little kids run around all the time, and um I remember my dad was in shock when he went to church once because someone brought their coffee into the congregation and drank it. But now like you go to church and they serve coffee up front and let you bring it in. So it's kind of a little wild there. So anyways, that's today's episode. It's a little short, a little well, actually no, it's actually 17 minutes. My goodness, I haven't gone on for 17 minutes since my post snip. So yeah. Um hope you all had a good Easter. I don't know what to talk about next week. Probably something stupid and pointless like every other episode. So yeah, and enjoy your week. God bless.